it's Barry Neal again here, and in this short video I want to cover what I consider to be one of the most important techniques that you can learn, and if you just learn this one technique, you can pretty much deal with 90% of the problems that come into your office. Because 90% of the problems that will come into your office, or these days on Skype or Zoom or whatever, are going to follow the same sort of underlying equation, and that is when X client does Y. One of the things about NLP is that Bandler was a mathematician, so he looked at lots of the problems that were out there and reduced them into a mathematical framework. And pretty much every problem that comes into your office is going to be some version of when X client does Y. So for example, client might come in and say, whenever I talk to my boss or my father, my husband, I feel like. So when X client does Y. A phobia, for example, when I see a spider, I feel. So pretty much everything is a version of when X client does Y. It could be weight loss. For example, whenever I'm really bored, I eat. Yeah? So virtually every problem that's going to come into your office is going to be some version of this. Now, if you understand this, this means you don't have to keep going on Facebook groups or going on the internet buying scripts for every different condition that someone comes in with, because they're all the same, or 90% of them are the same. They all follow this particular framework. And so if you know that, then the solution is, instead of client does Y, then you have client does not Y. In other words, anything else that's not Y. And so how are you going to do that? Well, the cleanest, easiest way is to do something called a collapsing anchor. And collapsing anchors is really simple, comes from NLP, but again, NLP reduced things down to the simplest form. And so what happens is, with collapse anchors, when the client comes in and they say, when I do X, I feel Y, what you need to do is to use questions like the meta model to find out when and where it happens. It's really important when you're working with people is to identify the context, narrow it down. If someone comes in and says, I have anxiety, and you go, great, and start trying to work on the whole of anxiety in one go, you're going to run into problems. So you always want to pick a context. So, okay, so you have anxiety. When does that happen? When do you have that? And they say, all the time. And you go, great, pick one example. Give me one example where you feel anxious. When I go into my boss's office and I have to talk to him, he looks at me in that certain way, I feel terrible. This anxiety builds up inside of me. Great, that's what you need to work with. Don't try and knock out the whole forest in one go. Go for the individual trees. If you start knocking those individual trees down, eventually you'll hit the biggest one, which takes the whole lot down like a load of Skittles. But if you go in straight away after the biggest problem in their world, you are likely to come into problems. So first step, identify the context. When and where do they do it? Get the specific context. Okay, so then what you do, when you've done that, so let's say in that example, when I go into my boss's office and he looks at me in that certain way, I feel, so then you anchor them. So you can anchor them maybe on their shoulder, on their hand, on their knee. So probably a good idea in this day and age to tell them, before you do this, is it okay if I touch you on the shoulder? Is it okay if I touch you on the back of the hand or whatever? So you get permission to do that, particularly in this day and age. Now, if you're working over the internet, how do you do that? Well, you're going to have to develop tonal anchors and spatial anchors. So like maybe using the gestures and things like that, or stealing their anchors, which I mentioned in one of the other videos. So the first step is then you anchor the problem. So you anchor the problem, say, so this is the present state. You anchor that on, say, their shoulder or their arm or whatever, and then you dissociate them from the problem, like we mentioned in the other video of the meta pattern. So you then would break the state and say, just open your eyes, look around the room, or any type of pattern interrupt. I mean, the typical one that people are using NLP for years is, can you smell popcorn? It breaks the state at that point. So you interrupt the pattern, yeah? So then you want to go after the resources. So you could ask them, so that's how you've been, how do you want to feel? If you could feel any way in the world, how would you like to feel? And then you find out how they would like to feel. You might have to push some clients because they probably don't really know. If they say, well, I don't want to feel X, that's not good enough. You have to get them to focus on what they do want. And then, so let's say, for example, they say, well, I want to feel really, really confident. Okay, great. So what's it like when you feel confident? They go, oh, I feel so good. It feels really good inside me. I breathe differently. It just feels great. So anchor that on the other shoulder or the other hand. Yeah. And again, if you're working over the internet, you're going to have to come up with another visual anchor, or you're going to have to use another tonal anchor, and that's fine. It's just, you just get flexible. That's all you do. I mean, I used to do this over the phone, so you can absolutely do it over the internet. So this becomes really easy. So then you anchor that state, the positive state. Now you may need to do what's called stacking anchors, because the key to collapsing anchors is that the positive state, has to be more powerful than the negative state. Otherwise it's just going to collapse into it, not collapse it down. So you might say, let's say for example they say I want to feel confident. So you anchor confidence. And then you could add something else. They might add totally loved. A feeling of totally loved. So you have them fully associated to feeling totally loved. You might anchor in excitement. Can't spell excitement. You might anchor in fun, a sense of fun, or humour, anything. And you stack those on top. So what you're doing there is on that, whatever the shoulder is that you're anchoring the positive stuff, you anchor it in the same place over and over. So you do one, check that it's there, anchor again, check that it's there, anchor again, check that it's there. And what should happen is you should be calibrating and see these states coming up in the person. So if you're eliciting the state of confidence, for example, and the person is sitting there and you go, okay, can you remember a time you felt really confident? And they go, yeah, you haven't elicited the state. So you really want to do it. Bandler would often say, because they talk about sensory acuity, he would say something like, I want to be able to see those non-verbal signals from across the room. So you really want to amplify those states. So you could even say to them, okay, so it's feeling confidence. Are you feeling confident now? Yes. Right, turn it up, double it again, really increase that feeling. So you're using, if you're using hypnosis, you can amplify it by using your voice tonality and everything. Turn up the positive state. Once you've got that positive state and it looks really good, and you think, right, that's going to do, what you do then is you say, okay, now you pattern interrupt that, so now they're in a neutral state, and then you say, okay, now I want you to think about that problem context, like when you're about to talk to your boss, you walk into your office and at first you feel this way, fire the negative one, and straight away you fire the positive one, and then you hold both down. What's going to happen is both of those states are going to fire off in their neurology, and it's going to feel really, really weird for them at first because they're going to be like, oh, it's a bit confusing. All these different states are going to be firing off in their head, and they might come up with some strange expressions or whatever. You should be able to calibrate and see that something is really going on there. So hold those both down, and then after about 15-20 seconds, take your hand off the negative one, hold the positive one down, and say, yeah, okay, that's right. And now I want you to try hard in vain to feel that old negative way. Is it there or has it gone? Now, if you've done your job properly, that state will have gone. And you go, I want you to really try hard in vain to bring back that negative state. Is it there or has it gone? And again, they'll probably say, no, it's gone. They'll show you, sure? I want you to really, really try hard, because you used to be good at that negative state. I want you to bring back that old negative state. Really try hard in vain to bring back that old negative state. Is it there or has it gone? All the while using the resource tonality. Yeah. So you're firing it off and you're touching them. Yeah. So do that. And then you say, okay, I want you to try. And then you take your hand off, because now those two states should have integrated. And I want you to then test them and say, okay, I want you to again, now without my hand being on your shoulder, I want you to try hard in vain to bring back that negative feeling. Is it there or has it gone? No, it's gone. Great. So now you future pace. Okay, I want you to imagine yourself maybe tomorrow or next week, next month, whatever, going into your boss's office and he looks at you in that same way. Try hard in vain to bring back that old negative feeling. Is it there or has it gone? If you've done your job properly, it will have gone. But don't stop there. Future pace again and again. Then, if you've done this in hypnosis, emerge them from hypnosis and then say, great, I want you to try and get that negative feeling back. Is it there or has it gone? No, it's gone. Come on, you used to be good at this. Really try, come on. Really provoke them. You want to test this. One of the things that really rubs me up the wrong way with some therapists is they never want to test their work. You absolutely want to test it. You want to see all the non-verbals fire off that lets you know that they have changed. You're going to know that they've changed before they do. So make sure you test your work and future pace it, because what this does, it will build in recursion, which is how your brain learns. And once it does that, that change will be there as long as the old problem was. Okay? So it's really simple. So you can do this kinesthetically by using touch on the shoulders or on the hands, or if you're doing it over the internet, you can do it either using tonal anchors or visual anchors, or you can get them to anchor themselves. You can say, okay, when you feel that negative feeling, squeeze your left fist, or when you feel the positive feeling, squeeze your right fist. Now squeeze both. Yeah, and I've got a video I teach on YouTube for some of my anxiety clients, so they can do this at home. So it can be done really easily over the internet. So this is a really powerful skill, and if you learn no other techniques, you can do about 90% of the work that you do just with this. And then you can dress it up with other suggestions and things like that, and you can then go into a hypnosis little routine after that, but this is where the change happens. So my goal for you is that you practice this and you get really good at it. Anchoring is really effective, because this is how all change works. All change really is about changing the person's state in the context where they used to have the problem. That's really it. You can dress it up as much as you like, but the reality is all change really is about getting them into a new state in the place where they used to have a problem. If they're in a new state, they will behave differently and they will get better results. Does that make sense? So it really is important. State change is really crucial. If you can get them into a more powerful state, anchor that into the problem context, that will then, change will then stick, because they will then be in a better state, they will behave differently, they will start to believe things about their abilities that are different from how they used to be, and they'll get better results. So practice this with your clients. Let me know how well you go on. It's a really powerful technique, and it will work tremendously. So let me know how well you get on.